Welcome to the Draftstars AFL Show with Smatho and Roody.
With thanks to Draftstars and Daily Fantasy Rankings, your number one resource for AFL DFS. This is the grand final edition of the Draftstars AFL Show with Smatho and Roody. Roody's on location tonight. I've realised that the Jack Jumpers are going to win the 2023 NBL season after their pre-season exports. Welcome to the live viewers. Welcome to our replay viewers throughout Friday and Saturday for the Big Granny, the Cats and the Swans. Draftstars $250,000 prize pool will be available on Saturday afternoon, the traditional 2:30 p.m. time. I'm excited. It's been a big year. Grand final edition. Roody, good evening to you. Thanks for joining me. Cats and the Swans. It seemed to be the game that we wanted from a punter's point of view, from a fantasy point of view, and just from a general guy who's just going to watch the grand final on Saturday.
Yeah, 100%. G'day, Smatho. Thanks for having me here at this grand final edition. It is exactly the game that we wanted if my beloved Demons couldn't be there. I think Sydney is just a well-liked team. You know, like, who doesn't like Sydney? When I saw that Paul Kelly was going to present the cup if they win, like, who doesn't want to see that? Like, everyone loves Sydney, or I do. I think they're a great team, great to watch. And Geelong, like, as much as I do not like them at all, you know, the sentimental, footy lover in me says that it would be great to see Selwood, win another one as a captain, Dangerfield to finally win his first premiership. Like, there are a lot of cool little narratives that we would like to see, but I'm really looking forward to this contest. Should be a fantastic day, and I'm ready to take my seat as well. I did win a seat in the MCC ballot, so I'll be there on grand final day. Very lucky, very fortunate. But yeah, looking forward to it, Smatho.
Yes, I did have to pop a little ticket in the cup on the cover of the YouTube video. So yes, you lucky duck. I'm sure it's the first grand final you'll be able to go see in a few years. So it's going to be a momentous occasion in Melbourne at the MCG. But look, we're not here to reminisce about what's happened this year. We are going to talk about this record-breaking $250,000 prize pool that's been presented by Draftstars. $20 per entry, 2:30 start, MCG. Before I bring up the teams, Rudy, do you have a weather update in terms of is there any weather cues that we need to look out for straight away?
It actually looks like a smashing day, Smatho. 14 and partly cloudy so far in Melbourne on Saturday. It has been a little bit wet in Melbourne this winter, even though I know we're a month into spring. But it hasn't been torrential ever. We haven't had a day where it's like rained all day. So even if it does rain, it won't stay around for long, but it looks like it's going to be a perfect grand final day. Not too hot, nice and sunny. Should be a good day.
Excellent. Well, I've brought up the teams here that were announced here on Thursday evening. The Cats went to script. I think Max Holmes, they were very confident in his hamstring. He's got one more fitness test on Friday to get through. If he gets through, that's fine. No changes for them. Mark O'Connor has been the medical sub throughout the finals and is likely to be the sub once again. Look, if Holmes does come out, you just assume that either Parfitt gets the go ahead there. For the Swans, Hayden McLean comes in. Braden Campbell has been the medical sub, but Logan McDonald has been omitted. Now, obviously, the talk has been about Sam Reid all week with his abductor or his groin, the old groin term. So, is this an interesting selection here, but not really fantasy relevant, though?
Yeah, not fantasy relevant, but definitely very, very interesting. And you can't help feel sorry for the kid Logan McDonald being dropped for a grand final. That's harsh, especially for a guy who, don't know if I'm right here, I think he hasn't played since round 5 or something like that. Like, it's been a while between drinks for Hayden McLean. And it's not like, oh, yeah, fair enough, he has to step down for McLean. McLean's his superstar, he's been injured and he's done all the right things. He's just basically a slightly more experienced, slightly bigger body, more mature body to bring in to play the same role. I suppose the thing that Logan McDonald can't do that McLean can do is give a chop out to Tom Hickey in the ruck. And that's if Sam Reid doesn't get up. So what's interesting for me, Smatho, is I think it's safe to say Hayden McLean plays, right? So Hayden McLean plays. what happens if Sam Reid doesn't get up? Yeah. So that's the interesting factor for me. Does Logan McDonald then come straight back into the team? Or do they go with Braden Campbell, who's been the Medi sub for a few games now? I think personally, if Sam Reid doesn't get up, Logan McDonald will come in because they have been playing with McDonald and Reid and Hickey the last few games. So I think they'll simply swap. Then Hayden McLean becomes Reid and Logan McDonald just stays full forward and plays that goal square forward role that he's been doing for most of the year. Yeah. But it is interesting. Yeah. And I also think that thanks there, Sarge. I do think that structurally they need that third tall as well.
Thanks for the questions in the chat already. We've got one here from John already here for you, Rudy. We'll get it straight into it because obviously that can lead into the draft star slate. And he asks, how many major differential picks are we going to need to really crack a big cash with such a large entries in this comp?
Yeah, I've been thinking that myself because I'm going to throw caution to the wind this week and throw maybe 4 or 5 entries into the big 250K competition. Shout out to Draftstars for really raising the bar again to 250, biggest single competition outside the live final, I believe. So it's amazing to see. Yeah, look, you gotta just go with your gut. I think there are definitely going to be a few chalky plays that we'll talk about pretty soon into the show. But just go for it. If you reckon that, who was it? Hayward. I was semi heavy on Hayward last week. It didn't happen, but if it did, I would have had 4 in the top 10. So you got to go for those big statements. How many of those big statements do you need? I'd say 1 or 2. You don't need to have 4 people on 4%. Yeah, it's not that kind of game. You just need a couple to differentiate above the field to get up there on the leaderboard. But definitely go with your gut. Don't look at your team and think, shit, I've got too many Swans there. I've got too many Cats there. I really need to have 1 forward from each team. Just go with it. It's you got one more contest, guys. That's it. This is it. There's no game next week. So just go for it.
Now, a bit of a shout out to the tools here at Daily Fantasy Rankings, which also you will need this week to check out what the data is presenting at the moment. Let me bring up one screen I've been looking at early this evening is when these let me start again, Smatho. When these 2 teams last met, and you have to go all the way back to round 2 when they played the SCG. As you can see here, the Swans, did pretty well. They won the game. Mills had 117, Lloyd, Heaney, the usual suspects getting some good scores. Also, Cunningham, when he was playing the side. To answer your question earlier about McLean, he got up to round 8. A couple of scores in the 30s, and then obviously he didn't play from then on. As we can see with the Cats haven't been a great fantasy side here in 2022. So not many big scores at the start of the season or at the end of the season. During the middle, of course, but back here when they played Sydney, only one guy, Brad Close, had 100 points in that particular game. So they're available at dailyfantasyrankings.com.au. Check them out all throughout Friday and Saturday before making your team. So they're available at DFR. Rudy, what is your overall strategy for this game? As I said, it's a big, large field contest, yet you will have to go for those plays that just look absolutely disgusting, but you just never know. But where will you think the field would be going this week? Are we thinking stacks of Swans, considering there are a more potent fantasy side than Geelong? Or do we back in the Cats to say, okay, no one's going to be on the Cats in terms of percentage-wise and see if they have a massive day out at the MCG?
I think that there's no right single way to approach this contest. I think that you need to have multiple... this is a time to really chuck... If you're like me and you don't play that many entries, this is a time to break those rules and to throw a couple of different scenario-laden teams in there, Because if you ask me the question, Smatho, if you were entering one lineup, what would you do? Well, I really don't know what I'd do. I would probably go value in the back line and then really target the mid-price guys. The first lineup I did was basically no one over 13.5 was the first lineup I did, just to avoid people going up to Parker and Mills and Lloyd as well, who are the clear ceiling plays on the slate. So I don't think there's one right way to get this. The only right way is to win it.
I haven't mentioned before already. First prize, $21,800 for first
Wowee.
prize. Even top 10, you are guaranteed 2,000 for top 10. Sure, 14,000 entries, you have to, really hit it. But hey, price is down to 3,625. Well, you're actually doubling your money, which is, if you have 3 or 4 and you do quite well, then Bob's your uncle, okay? But as always, let's get stuck in this game. We'll start the rucks. We've actually got 5 options. Now, this could obviously change with Sammy Reid either going out. But, let's start from the top. Mark Blixarves, 12,490.
Sorry, Smatho, to cut you off. Go.
I just got to say, good game in the prelim, 94, because obviously Reece Stanley at 9,770 didn't do so well at 53. We kind of traffic lighted that he was going to be less scoring. Tommy Hickey, though, 93 points in the prelim at 11,810. I guess if Sam Reid goes out, he becomes an instantly chalky-ish play, thinking that, okay, it's going to be Tom Hickey and Tom Hickey load all day. Hayden McLean is available there at 8,550, and as we mentioned, he hasn't played since May. Okay, so your general order of thoughts starting from the top there, mate?
Yeah, for me, even though there are potentially 5 plays here, there's really only 2 that I'm considering, and that's the top 2 of Blixarves and Hickey. I really like this game. I think it sets up really well for Blixarves in terms of his hybrid role. I think I've mentioned this a number of times on the show, Smatho. Whenever there's a play that has multiple avenues to scoring, I'm instantly attracted to that person. And Blixarves, he's the ultimate spare parts man. So, yeah, Blixarves at that price still, it is getting up there in terms of his ceiling, which he only really flashes on those odd days, but his ultimate ceiling, sorry. But I think we can safely back in a 90 to 95, maybe even 100 from Blixarves today. And the other guy is Tom Hickey. He played a super prelim, absolutely super prelim. That was like Tom Hickey doing what he does. And I actually was really impressed with his clearance work himself, not just his tap work, but the way that he actually grabbed the ball and kicked it forward himself. He was really good around the ground. He was awesome. He was the number 1 ruck in that contest last week, 100%. So for me, it's Blixarves and Hickey. If I had to include one of these cheaper guys, it would be Stanley, just for a Blue Moon game. To answer that question before of, how many unique pieces do we have? Blixarves and Hickey will be the 2 most popular ruck plays. You can bet your house on that. But yeah, Stanley, a ceiling game where he does manage to get forward. If this game does get out of control for the Swans and Stanley, drifts forward and kicks a goal or maybe even 2, then if Stanley's kicking 2 goals, immediately, whatever else happens, he's the value play. He was the play if he kicks a goal or 2. Stanley, Blixarves, and Hickey would be the only rucks that I'm looking at in this grand final contest. What about you, Smatho?
Yes, I would agree because, we don't want to be too different here in the rucks. You got to eat the chalk. If you say, I'm Tom Hickey all the way, then so be it. All right. You can't be sweating on Reece Stanley to having a Blue Moon game. You can't be. I mean, you can on Sam Reid if he is right to go and, tears it apart down back. But, I'd rather play it safe and just have Blixarves and Hickey and move on and don't really worry about those bottom 3. Before I move on to defence, I've got a comment here from Josh, and he suggests have a grand final sprint rapid fire, Smatho. Now, let's be honest, the grand final sprint is one of the most, regulated competitions known in the man. And to have a 5 out of 5 selection for rapid fire, look, I like it. Will it be manipulated to its smallest degree? Probably. So, I'm keen to have some head-to-head selections. Pop it in the chat and see you'd be able to pick out a grand final spit rapid fire. But you never know.
Let's just say I think most of them have Melbourne's representative Kate Chandler covered. You know, when you're going for Leek Leah or Kate Chandler, I think I know which one I'll take. Thanks.
Fairly, yep, yes. So there'll be some. You have to get those matchups right, and I just can't see where there'd be two blokes actually trying to go toe to toe for it. But good suggestion.
What about some over unders on the if up there Kazali gets played, or how long the national anthem goes for, like the an NBA finals.
18 plus gamble responsibly, and I wouldn't suggest looking at those kind of prop kind of bets. All right, we're digressing. Let's move on to defense. Mitch Duncan leads the defenders here at 14,850. Just below him is Jake Lloyd. His price is still going up and up due to his form. Only a 69 last week at the SCG, but still available at 14,550. We dropped down to Tom Stewart at 13,020. Zach Tui, who has a midfielder defender dual position at 12,390, and then it drops away to Ollie Florent. Let's start with the top four. The Swans didn't go too well in terms of the defenders last week against the Pies. We thought they would do pretty well. They didn't really score that well. Blakey was probably the exception there at 75 at his price tag. But do you have concerns there at Jake Lloyd only having a 69 last week?
I mean, I'm just not looking to pay up for Lloyd in this contest. I'm not. I don't see it setting up for him. He hasn't. I had Lloyd in a season long team, and so I've been watching him quite closely, and I still can't quite point out what's different this year. Like, he just doesn't appear to be venturing outside 50 that much. He did kick a couple of goals against Melbourne, but he really has stayed inside 50 quite a lot and left the movement. Ollie Florent has been one of the main drivers out of defence recently, and he actually played pretty well in the prelim, Ollie Florent. But yeah, so Lloyd is not someone I'm looking to get to. If I was paying up for a defender, it would be Duncan or Stewart. I think 13 is a great price for Stewart. He's been a little bit inconsistent, especially since he's been injured. But we all know what he can do when he has a day out. Like, that is a GPP winning team with Stewart in there. So yeah, I think and Duncan has had a 10 or 11 mark game on the prelim. So that's something that you'd want a piece of too. But if you look at Lloyd's highest marking games this year, they're just not where you've got the 13 and 11 and a 10 in there. But Stewart and Duncan have much more consistent marking numbers. And he's not even taking every kick out these days either. So, I just think that the days of Lloyd sealing games are a little bit beyond us. Now, traditionally, people who've watched the pod, the video show this whole year will know whenever I've said someone doesn't have the capability, bang, they go nuts, just like Salem did one night. But yeah, so I'm looking to get a little bit different if I can in some lineups. But I think there are two clear chalky plays here, Smatho. And I'd like you to scroll all the way down to the bottom of the list, please. And then we'll come back up and discuss some other people. But Jake Kolodjashnij at 6'8" will be the chalk defensive play. If you look at those two injury-affected games, the 12 and the 8, he literally left in the first quarter. He got injured in the first quarter in both of those games. So if you discount those and then you look at his previous 4 games, mate, I'd take a 50. I'd take the 49 at 6'8". I would, especially in a game like this. So I'd definitely take that price. I think he will be probably the most popular player, or at least one of the most popular players in this contest. So Jake Kolodjashnij is a clear chalk. Sam and Tom McCartan, not so much. Paddy McCartan, maybe a little bit. But yeah, it's, I did actually play both brothers in a couple of lineups last week. And yeah, I came near to the bottom of the contest. So scrolling up again, let's see, trying to get some more value for people, because I think this is where you try and squeeze your value in. McInerney, Buse, Henry, Rampy. I say them together because they've probably got the same ceiling at the moment. don't expect too much. But if I'm getting like a 50 to 60 from these guys, well, I may as well try and get one from Koladajnic. That's why he's going to be so highly owned, just because you don't really get much from getting off him. Buse, no, for me, probably the one I'll be least interested in. And the other mega chalk I think we'll see is Zach Guthrie. I think he will be also very, very popular, given those 2 recent scores above 80 and then the historic 100 score and a 70 and a couple other really good scores this year. Again, the narrative that you want here is some +6s between the other defenders and a Geelong blowout win. A Geelong blowout win, I think you'll see some Guthrie junk time. But look, I don't actually mind swallowing both pieces of defensive chalk. I think that they're really 2 solid plays, and I'm going to back them in. I'll tell you right now, they're both in my first look team, and I'll try and get different somewhere else.
I was going to bring this after you just go through the defenders here. You just literally answered Jake's question here. Who is the best cheaper option to play under 10,000? I mean, we can call Zach Guthrie to every... Yeah, it's Guthrie and Koladajny. But if we refer back to John's question, how do we get differential? This is your spot to go, okay, I'm going to take Colo on, all right? I might pick Paddy McCartan at the same price. I might pick Jed Buse at the same price. And let's see if I can get 10.
No, I'll stop you there, Smatho. I don't think that's the way to get different. I think if you're going to get off them, get real off them. Yeah?
Yeah.
So go pay up somewhere in your back line. Go for a double stud stack. Go for a Duncan Stewart combination, I think that's the way to get off Koladajny, because you're not okay. So the only way that'll work out is if he gets injured, which he may well do. I'm pretty sure I said that he would probably get injured last week, and he ended up being in the winning lineup. But I don't think, and the reason why I'm saying that a pivot cheap play isn't the go is just because of pure ceilings, Okay, let's say Tom McCartney, Koladajny does get injured. And what's Tom McCartney going to score at 30? Well, you're not going to win with that. It's just not going to happen, So if you're going to get off Koladajny, yeah, it's a definite good tournament play not to play him. But go high. Go high or go for a Florent McInerney stack or something unique. If you're going to get off him, get unique. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for that. Let's move on to mids. Now, 16,220 is available for Callum Mills, Luke Parker at 15,160. Obviously, they're the guts of the Sydney midfield. Mills had a great Brownlow count, which was was nice to see. Luke Parker, big game player, did drop down to 84 last week, but I that's probably the lowest he will go for a floor for this particular game. Cam Guthrie, 13,930 is a tease price. Absolute tease price. He has the ceiling. Floor shocking in his last, 2 months. Nicky Boy, nice to see you. He says, Guff Pig, not pigging. Danger and Gel with big game players. So they are available. Danger. He was only 11,000 last week and everyone ate it and they loved it. He's now at 13,360. Whereas Selwood, as we talked about, he's just a diesel engine, just, trucks along, 70s, 80s. Does have 100 in him. Does he have 100 in him on the big stage in the grand final?
Sorry, I thought that was a rhetorical question. This question to me. I think you've got to love these narrative plays, in the midfield. Dangerfield, if Geelong win, you just know he's going to kick 2 or 3, and have a day out. Selwood, he'll have a head bandaged, accepting his medal, So, yeah, look, there's definitely this is a really tricky midfield slate, because I don't think you're going to see an out-and-out slate breaker. Like, I don't think you're going to see a Callum Mills 140 or a Luke Parker 1. I just don't think that's going to happen. So, and if that's the case, if you just ignore them because they're too expensive, right? And I'm not saying that you definitely do that. I'm just saying if you do that, then there are about, 6-7 players everyone's in play. Selwood, Blixarves as a mid, Smith, who was really bad last week. Isaac Smith was really, really bad. He went missing in the first half, came alive in the second half to scrape his way to 69. But yeah, I actually went a good quarter until I saw him on the field. But let's go back up to the top and talk about just briefly pros and cons of these plays, Smatho. Okay, so Mills and Parker, you know what you're getting. You know what you're hunting. You are hunting a 120 plus. And I think on a slate like this, where there isn't much bankable value apart from Kolodjasny, I just don't see it. I really don't. And that might be my worst call of the night, but I just don't see how it's viable paying up for one of or both of Mills and Parker. So you know what that means? Have a Mills and Parker team. Because a lot of people will be thinking that. That's my point. A lot of people will be thinking there is no way I can jam in Mills, Parker, Guthrie, or Mills, Parker, Rowbottom. It just can't work. So make it work, guys. Try and make it work. And again, that's a way to get different, you know. And even if these guys are all above the 30% mark, that might be the case, but it doesn't mean that people have got them in the same team. I think that's what people often get confused about with GPP play as well. You don't necessarily have to have a 1% player. You know, it's just not having the same combination as other people. So just thinking about the slate in a different way is another way to win, you know. Take that from a guy who rarely wins. Who haven't we spoken about? Yeah, the two young boys, Rowbottom and Warner. Man, just in game scripts, Smatho, there's a lot of responsibility on those two kids. You know, a lot of responsibility. Rowbottom, for me, was best on ground last week. I thought he was sensational. You know, I know that Buddy kicked a bag, or not bag, but a small bag. But I thought Rowbottom was awesome. Absolutely awesome. And he's someone who I'm going to find it very hard to get away from tonight. Just I think his upside for that price is awesome. And so is Warner as well for a similar reason. After a kind of modest couple of weeks, he had a really good game. The floor is a little bit concerning at 13.5 because you could argue that Selwood has a kind of similar range of outcomes at 11. So more, if I had to choose between one of these guys, it would be Rowbottom. I think he's more consistent and has a much, much higher ceiling than Warner. And then we've got this group of, Danger, of course. No, don't need to talk about him. Have him. Big game player. This will mean the world to him. You know, he will be doing everything possible to not only win a premiership, but be the reason that they win. Like, he's an egotistical douchebag. He'll want to win. You know, he'll want to win. So you have to have Dangerfield in most of your lineups, I'd say, in most of them. But the one I really like, Smatho, is the one just below Dangerfield, the swashbuckler, Errol Golden, the swashbuckler. Now, he had an excellent prelim final. He's just a gun, like an absolute gun. I really like him, Smatho. I like him at the price because people think it's too expensive to play him, and that he's a kid and they'll get freaked out and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, really like Golden. And now we can get to the Geelong cluster of Blitzarves, Tui, Smith, Atkins, Selwood. Of those players, it is probably Selwood is my preferred play out of those guys. I think that while he doesn't have the ceiling that maybe Tui and Smith have, I think, again, the narrative works well. The lowest owned of those guys will be Atkins, because, again, people showed last week they didn't want to pay up for Atkins. And Selwood will be a popular play. What you're looking for in Atkins is what we used to look for in Parfitt, is that tackle floor. And the tackle floor last week was amazing, but he didn't do anything else. Like, didn't have, and this is what he can do. So beware. He, 3 or 4 marks, and that's a 90. So not quite, but close. You know what I mean? But he just doesn't do enough. He's just a tackler. Anyway, moving on. Now we have some interesting decisions, Smatho, because these are our other value options: Stevens, Holmes, and McInerney. Now, Holmes, as we know, left with a hamstring injury last week, but they have described this kid as, I saw an article, genetic freak. Apparently he just, apparently they likened him to Jimmy Steins. For those of you who are too young to remember Jimmy playing, the man played 244 consecutive games and just got himself up every week, So I reckon Holmes plays. What are your thoughts on Holmes? That's a big call to make in this slate.
Yeah, I reckon he plays. Sure, keep for the news tomorrow to have a look and see in terms of how he trains. But if he's running and doing laps and it's at some sort of back issue, hamstring, instead of the actual muscle or tendon itself, they'll give it a go.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you 100% there. I think that he'll be given every opportunity to play. That said, Geelong they'll look to try and take Mills out of it. I think they throw Guthrie head-to-head with Mills. It's interesting to note the last time they played, Mills actually tagged Danger, I think. So I've got this written down in my notes. So let me double-check that's right. Mills went head-to-head or tagged Danger, and he had a day out, Mills, and Danger barely touched it. So they could look to tapes and go, hey, let's do that again. Interesting to note, the teams were very different. Ryan Clark was not in Sydney's team at that time. Anyway, just interesting to note. McInerney, not much interest. And I don't believe there's anyone below that at all. Is there? No, not at all.
No.
Yep.
No. All right, Rudy. Question time. I've got a few questions here lined up for you.
Let's do it. Let's go.
Okay. Let's talk about tags. Mark suggests, any worries about Duncan getting tagged by a Clark? Or we have a suggestion here from Trent. Are you concerned about Guthrie copying a tag?
Yeah. Look, no, not to Guthrie. I don't think that Geelong has anyone that needs to be tagged apart from Stewart, And we have seen a lot of teams in the last year and a half play a negating forward role on Stewart. Clark did kick a couple last week, so maybe they do that. Maybe they start him at a half forward or forward pocket and try and take Stewart out of the game. Duncan, that's interesting. That'd not be the worst tag, but I think that'd be a wait and see tag. That if Duncan does start to get on top of things, then they may look to try and shut him down. But I think it's a waste of a tag straight away. That said, Ryan Clark is not a great footballer. So if he's in the team, Smatho, he's in the team to tag. So I think we do go for a Stewart forward tag, personally.
Okay.
Yep.
Caden, nice to see you. How much should you read into these kids getting nervous and the big stage affecting their performance? Now, I can joke around here and say, well, how many kids are on the Cats team? And you wouldn't need 3 fingers, all right, to count them out. So I'm assuming we're talking about the Swans, and obviously there's a few of those there. Yeah, look, it's interesting. I would say this: who won the Rising Star last year, Smatho? One of the Swans players. Yeah. Yeah, Golden. So and the year before that, the Rising Star was Luke Jackson, and he was the reason why Melbourne won a grand final. The third quarter was old Jacko. These are pros. These are professional players. If it was a debutant like we had Jake Bowie last year, maybe I'd take him a little bit. But Golden's a second-year player now. Rowbottom has, would it be about 22, 23? Like, he's had years of NEAFL experience. Chad Warner the same. De Koning, he doesn't need to start. He just needs to play his role, And so I don't think I wouldn't be paying much credence to that narrative. Like I said, if you think someone's going to play, Smatho, how many entries did we have last year in this contest? Around 14,000 entries. Yes. If you are going to beat out 14,000 other entries, you just don't. If you think, like, for example, I think Golden's going to do really well. In fact, I think that Sydney are going to have an upset win. That's what I'm going for, and I'm actually going to pretty much do every team that way, just because if they do win, I'll do well, I think Golden's going to be really good.
So just go with it. If you think that one of these young kids is going to get overawed, okay, that's your decision. But don't second guess things. Just lock in. Oh, I think he's going to get overawed. No.
Yeah, so Ben suggests here the Freo kids got spooked against the Pie, so it can play a factor. Of course, in terms of the actual result and in terms of your potential fantasy output, yes, of course, yeah, you can go to the Freo game and look at the numbers there, and they weren't great, and the Pies were fantastic.
But I also think that Collingwood are a lot better than we all gave them credit for, and the pressure game. I mean, you can say, well, the kids got overawed. Far out, Melbourne got overawed. Like our whole team got overawed in consecutive games, successive games. I was putting the two words together. I often do that. So you can get out pressured by anyone. Age is not a factor here. Collingwood were just better than Freo. Just simple.
All right. Thanks for those comments, guys. One more. Obviously, there's we want to get on the forwards in a second here, but Josh suggests that Sydney using to be playing in front of bigger crowds and the construction sites out at Geelong. So put them tush. I like it. All right, let's talk about his forwards. Obviously, you love Errol Golden. He's there at 13,230. You will have to stump the cash for him up. Play him in your forward line, or do you have to really sacrifice him in your midfield to get to the value guys down the bottom here? First question.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question, Smatho, to start off with, because the other value option is to take some of these cheaper forwards. I don't think you need to sacrifice him in the midfield. I wouldn't be playing him in the midfield. I would be going for him in the forward line. In fact, this is a stack that I had a little bit of last week, and I will be having a lot of it this week, which is both Heaney and Golden. I think that's going to be quite not completely unique. Like, I won't be the only one who considers doing that, just because they're at the top of the salary list. But I also think that a lot of people will try and sneak some value in here with a Gary Rowan or a Ryan Clark, and we'll get to those value plays in a moment. Yep.
All right. Let's talk about Isaac Heaney. He's only a forward.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Available 12,950. Uber consistent for a forward. And 12,950.
And kicked 5 goals against them last time. So if you, I mean, again, it was the SEG, different teams and all that kind of stuff. But he is, I say this every week, we have a Sydney slate. He's one of my favourite players to watch. And again, Sydney win into an Isaac Heaney, Norm Smith. Oh, yeah, give me that. Gamble responsibly, please. But yeah, so I don't mind taking both of them, definitely. And Heaney's got a great floor. Like, you do have to make some sacrifices. I won't lie. It's tricky to make it work, but it is possible to make it work. Yeah.
Pretty much Jeremy Cameron in the same mold, 12,370. A bit quieter in the prelim compared to the qualifying final, but he'd be able to rip a game apart if he gets on a few snags. Tom Papley, everyone's favourite son at 12,130. Bobbed up for an 82 in the prelim, so he does have potential to go 80 plus, but that 12,000 will scare the majority off, you would say, if you're on your hub there. Tommy Hawkins is obviously a fantasy jet if he's on. 11,540. I think there'll be a lot of people taking stabs at him and then writing in, marks, kicks, goals, and then just repeating that over and over again. And all of a sudden he's got 100. 11,000 seems to be a good price for him.
Yeah. I think it is. I think that a lot of people will probably be scared a little bit off spending up for Jeremy Cameron. So then Hawkins comes right back into consideration then. And I think that in terms of ceiling around that price point, he does make a lot of sense as well. I really like Brad Close to get a bit different. And if I'm playing Brad Close, he's my pivot off of Holmes. Yeah. So if I'm playing Brad Close, I'm probably not playing Holmes, just as a bit of a pivot option there. And then I tried to get on the good side of Will Haywood last week. It didn't work, but he could. I still like his upside. He's the forward that will go unnoticed, and especially like Haywood if McLean plays. Just because McLean is a bit stronger and a bigger presence than McDonald, I think that will even further draw Geelong's attention to those big guys, and then opens up the possibility for Hayward to get a little bit loose. And then, Stengel, Holmes and Myers of that combination. Holmes and Stengel are the players I'm looking for. I did go over Buddy, skip over Buddy a little bit. And look, again, what's he going to give you? He's going to give you what he did last week. That's in Buddy's. That's his ceiling at the moment. His ceiling is around the 80-85, Now, 80-85 from 10 isn't bad, but I don't think it's what you're looking for here. I think you either go high or low in the forwards. And then we've got our cut price options right down the bottom. Gary Rowan, Ryan Clark. So again, Rowan didn't really do too much last week, and Clark was only 6,000. Yeah, so Clark was only 6,000, but now he's jumped straight back up to 7,200. That's a lot. Like it's. I know it's psychological, Smatho, but it's also actually a fair bit of cash on this slate. So yeah, that's an interesting one. What are your thoughts on these cut price players down the bottom?
Oh, the hard choices, because if you go Ryan Clark, you're thinking, okay, hopefully he's tagging someone, he's around the stoppages, hopefully gets a few tackles. But if you're suggesting he's doing like a forward tag on Stewart or potential halfback tag on Duncan or whoever, right? He's not going to really be involved in terms of stoppages and things like that. So if I can avoid it, sure. If you can't afford your team and you only have Ryan Clark left, then wing it. All right? Don't just hit the X button and start again. Put him in, because you just be, okay, 8 out of 9 might get me the win. All right? Gary Rowan, again, you want a Cats win for this particular to bob up. Again, 7,500, it's fine. Above then, you really want these guys hitting their ceilings, especially in the forwards. Couple more comments for Rudy before we get into your team of the grand final. Shout out to Rob, first time catching you guys live. Some interesting decisions to make on lineups. Yeah, it's these things are not given away. This is the beauty of DFS Fantasy AFL. You've got 4 positions. You've got 45, 46 players, potential players. We're not counting the subs here to go. It's the beauty of it, and that's why it's a very popular sport. So shout out to you, Rob, for coming in. Trent suggests that McLean sneaky play will kick 3, lock it in. What else we got here? Big Loves playing Sydney in grand finals. Look at Tom Boyd. Yes, so we are looking at Cameron. We are looking at, Hawkins, Buddy. One of them will go big. This game won't be a grind in terms of maybe a 40 points to 50. One of these will kick multiple goals. So if you have them in your lineups, awesome. Then obviously Josh, the comedians, come in and say Parfit as a sub play if Holmes starts. I'll lock it in. I like these policies, optimism for this particular slate. And then obviously Trent suggests you should put the house on it. So looking forward to seeing what Josh gets at when he puts the house on Parfit. All right, Rudy. Enough of the gags. Let's look at your team of the grand final. Now, obviously, viewers of this show know that your changes are often.
I'm still doing them right now.
Can I swear? For fuck's sake, Rudy. Now,
All right,
I have prepared a team. No.
You go.
I have prepared a team. So here we go. This is my team of the grand final. I'm backing the Cats in. Hopefully they go bananas in terms of the fantasy score. So Reece Stanley has to go in, though. He has to start at 9,770. I'm backing in Tom Stewart to take 1 billion marks. Cole Dashney, you can't get away with it if he keeps up his form. As for my mids, I'm backing in Tom Atkins. As you said, if he can turn those tackles into, holding the ball, some kicks, some change, I think that'd be fantastic. I'm backing in Max Holmes at 9,610. I think his hamstring holds up and just does a job. All right, gets to 70 or 80, and that price at 9.6 is fantastic. Guthrie, we should be a pig this particular day. And who else I'm backing in? Oh, look, I've got to go for a Swan. I've got enough money here for Luke Parker at 15,160. I haven't really we talked about him too much, but I haven't got enough money for Callum. As for my forwards, unfortunately, Ryan Clark has to go in because, you want this side to look great without him, but unfortunately he has to go in because I am backing in Jeremy Cameron to have a massive day. So that's my team for the grand final.
So if anyone is watching right now and can chat right now, type in how many common players you think Smatho and I have in our teams. So give us a guess. Nearest to the pin wins Smatho's Draftstars hat that he's wearing right now. Okay, so how many common players does Smatho and I have in our team? I'll give you a minute to get your answers in, and then we'll move on to my team of the week.
Callum, she suggests you have a...
Callum, it's been... I'll tweet the screenshot with the timestamp. I had a team ready to go. It's a gag. It's a gag.
All right, here come the numbers. Here come the numbers. Here we go. Mark goes off his 0. All right,
so there we go.
We got a 0 on the board.
Not 0, Chadanovsky.
King Kong is here. He reckons 2. Jack suggests 1, along with Trent. Just 1 Colo.
Just Colo,
yes.
okay.
Yeah. Just the 1. Callum. Yes, Cal. 7. Josh suggests 2 as well.
So
Jake goes to 4. Your little hedge to the bets with the 4. But yep, I like it. Got a small hat.
No, but this is... I do wear this one, so I remember what my name starts with.
Now, before we get the answer, obviously Nicky Boy has straightened us up saying Atkins has no upside, Holmes no go, Guff Pig doesn't peg anymore. So there, yes. So
look, I am grew up in Bull Creek, Nicky Boy, Perth. So I agree with you. I agree with the Perfy today. I don't think those players have upsides. All right. So drum roll, Smatho. The common players are 2. 2 common players.
Ooh, right.
Just the 2.
Well, tell me the 2, so I'll leave them in the lineup.
Well, Smatho, can you guess who they are?
Oh, well, I can't just click and then have to re-click them. Just tell me.
Stanley and Colo. And Colo. And look, I'll explain the Stanley play. I like Hickey and Blixab so much more, I can't begin to tell you. But this was the only thing that could make the other pieces work. And I sacrificed what I could gain from what I would gain from this stack of players in my rest of my team. All right, so I'm going to eat double chalk in the back line. Give me Zachy Guthrie as well.
Excellent. Midfielders?
Midfielders are going to be a Sydney stack, please. Rowbottom, Papley, Golden and Warner. Rowbottom, Papley, Golden, Warner.
So Paps in your meals. Sure. Right.
Yep. And my good man Isaac Heaney in the forward line. And I disagree with you. I think that what's his name? Clark will have a stinker because of what you said, because of the Stewart matchup, which I think he'll go to. So give me Gary Rowan.
Gary Rowan. A Reece Stanley, Gary Rowan sweat on grand final day.
Oh my God, look at my 4 lowest players. Guthrie, Zach Guthrie, Colin Tashney, Stanley and Rowan. Oh my God. That team wins. It does, Mark. It does. Don't even bother entering. I've already spent it in my brain. This is a good team. Let's see. Rowan and a Swans win. It's a good point, JB. It's a good point. It's just I didn't want to play Clark, and I didn't have enough cash. So you're right. It's a bad combination. Correct. I'm still going with it.
All right. So thank you for all the viewers this evening on the live chat. Thanks for your questions. We have run a little bit over time. So unfortunately if you're just sitting down to having a nice little 15-minute preview for the grand final, I'm sorry. It didn't happen. We got to 50 minutes at the end.
I was being concise. It was the viewers. It was our lovely viewers who sidetracked with some great questions, Smatho. We're all about engagement here on the show. All about engagement.
Now, when you've got engagement, this is when I do my advertising as well. So shout out to the other contests that we're going to have available on Draftstars the next few weeks. Obviously, AFLW is kicking along. I can tell the viewers tonight, actually, with thanks to this cross promotion between DFR and Fantasy Insider, we're going to have the blank cruncher up on the site for AFLW starting next week. The reason why we couldn't have it for the first few rounds is because it didn't work with the normal AFL. So we had to wait till this season's up. So blank cruncher start next week. I know one of the viewers, Josh Barrett, has been doing pretty well with AFLW. So I'm sure he'll be crying now since the crunch is now available for all Draftstars use for free of charge. Sorry, mate. NFL's been going gangbusters. Check out that. Throughout October, the ICC T20 World Cup will be available every match, including the first week of stuff between Ireland and Zimbabwe and stuff like that. They'll be available on Draftstars. WBBL at the same time in October. And then give it a couple of weeks after the AFL finishes, the NBA is back. And the stuff that's starting to hit the NBA Twitter already has got us excited for a huge season of NBA. So make sure you get on the Draftstars for your daily fantasy stuff for that. Now, Rudy, I want to give you a massive shout out for this season of the Draftstars AFL Show. We've done like 30 plus episodes this year. So I want to thank you on behalf of Draftstars and obviously Daily Fantasy Rankings for having you every single show. No matter where you are, you've been on like 7-8 different locations this year, which has been pretty awesome. So shout out to you for your insights and good luck on Saturday when you're actually unloading your wallet into these teams on Saturday.
A little bit. Yeah, thanks, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure being on the show this year. Had heaps of fun. And thank you to all those regular watchers with your questions. Really appreciate it. And to Smatho as well, who works really hard at engaging with our Draftstars players and running these, put on the live show for us. And so, Smatho, well done to you. You've had a great year as well. And, thanks for having me on the show this year too.
No, thanks very much. And also, not the show without the guys, so a bit of a like on the way out. Any future stuff, we'll let you know. Thanks for all the comments this evening on the Grand Final show. It's awesome to have this come up.
What does GFY mean? Some kind of young person slang. Chad? Don't know.
All right, we're going to get out of here. Thanks very much. This has been the Draftstars AFL Show. Until probably next season, hopefully. We'll see you live 8:30 every week before each game. See you, Rudy.